Hi, I'm going to tell you about my experience of making a Tensegrity table. The good bits, the bad bits, the things that went well, things that went badly. Before I retired, and I've left a big pause there because I know many of you will be gasping in surprise that somebody who's as young looking as this can actually be retired. I used to work for a company that made us work on projects. Some things went well, some things went badly, and we had to do an implementation review. For the things that went well, I would try and look suitably humble, but take the applause. The things that went badly, I'd stroke my chin a little bit and try to look as if only they'd listened to me, everything would have been fine, but hey guys, you didn't listen to me. So this is a bit different. I'm going to tell you the truth, starting with the fact that I plagiarised most of the design from a video from John Malecki. It's on YouTube at the moment, and if you just want to know the nuts and bolts of designing and building one, go there and you'll find a great video which I mostly followed, and I'll show you later the bits that I changed. So that's the admission up front. Let's take a look now at what I produced. So here we have a view of the Tensegrity table that I built, and in 1 second I'm going to move my head to a vertical position, and that's going to make the whole thing looking a lot better than it does at the moment. Here we go. First of all, in building it, I tried to build it using a prototype, using the recommended lolly sticks, and it ended up like a pig's ear, I'm afraid. So I recommend that you do, in my case, a full scale drawing of what it will look like, and in that way you can get these arms and these arms to be at the right angles, the correct angles that is, not at a right angle, and it will look a lot better than my lolly stick version did. John Malecki, he recommended that. I should have listened to him. Next I cut 6 pieces at 60 degrees for the base and the top. My first schoolboy error at that point, I believe that if the mitre gauge was at 90 degrees and accurate, then if I moved it to 60 degree scale it would be accurate too. Oh no, it wasn't. I found it out after cutting both the 60 degrees and the half lap joints, and I spent then a long time correcting my error. So check your mitre gauge, guys and girls. These arms can be any shape really, so long as they end up from here, from that point, and vice versa. I did this just because it was the simplest. It doesn't have to be like that. The top has a rebate, and here comes the second schoolboy error. The rebate is there to take a piece of glass, tap tap. That piece of glass stops your beer falling through when you put it on there. The pieces of sides are 21 millimeters thick, and I'm aware that not everybody is used to dealing with millimeters. So if you're feet and inches and fractions, that's 210, 254ths of an inch. I hope you find that easier to understand. The dovetails take 14 millimeters, the rebate just over 6, and that doesn't leave 14 plus 6 from 21, doesn't leave a lot of room for error. And indeed what you can do is, if you look through the glass at the top, you can see the top of the dovetail, and I call it an architectural feature. Much admired by nobody who I've shown it to, but I think it's great. To cut these joints here, I used, as John Malecki did, a sliding dovetail. Second mistake there, I cut the dovetail in the base and the top. I kind of snuck up it when cutting it for these. On my test piece it fitted perfectly, but these joints were loose because I'd sanded these down by hand after selecting my test piece. So do what's sensible and make sure your test piece is the same as the actual piece you're going to make it from. There's a decision now as to whether or not you put a dovetail in the side and in the apex or the corners. I did that. It has 3 disadvantages. Slight one that it's different points on the table, so if you've got a jig you have to have 2 jigs, one for a side, one for the top, but I'm only making 1 table, so it didn't matter to me. Second one is that this point here I think should theoretically lie on the centre of gravity between the top and the base, and it doesn't. In my case it's slightly over that way. Does it make a difference? Nah. But the third one is quite a significant disadvantage. I'm constrained that the width of this is the width of the side, whereas if I was doing it from corner to corner I could make this length a lot longer, and I think these joints are the weak points on the overall structure. So it's so far been okay, but I think it is something to consider. So given 3 disadvantages, why did I bother doing it that way? And the answer is these 2 then meet in one plane. They're at 180 degrees and not at 120 degrees, which is what you'd get if you did it corner to corner. So I much prefer it that way. That's why I did it. Choice is down to you. My design has got a slight advantage as well. In order to select this point here, John Malecki, and anybody who does it corner to corner, has to erect a kind of structure to hold these places while he measures where that point is. If you do it my way, you can clamp top to base, so that one arm's pointing up and one arm's pointing down, and you'll find then you can just run a spirit level down through that hole and just measure it straightforwardly without doing a structure. These joints here are just simple, a hole up, a hole down, and then tied at the corner and here. I didn't try and hide within here the line going up. I did have some difficulty. I used fishing line initially. It's good, you can poke it, you can poke fishing line, so you can poke it up and poke it down. You can then tie those knots, which are, I've used fisherman knots. Didn't know how to tie them, but they're on the internet. 5 times round, up through the hole at the top, up through down the bottom, snug it up. But I found it very hard to actually tie them to length. Now I should say that the proportions of this are, it's about 18 inches high and about 15 inches wide, and the idea is to be useful height to put your glass of beer on. And I tried to make this as 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, but tying it, this became too long, and so these ones had to compensate. So although it's easy to tie these things, it's not so easy to get them to the right length. And these, that everybody's wondering what the hell these are, they are called, well, that's called a lifting eye, and there's a bolt there that goes through the wood, nut at the top, nut at the bottom, that secures this. These are called rigging screws. Never seen them before. Quite a nifty device. A right-handed thread at one side and a left at the other, and twisting it will move both bits in or both bits out. So you tie your ties with them out, you then twist this, brings them together. You can do that independently, and it doesn't twist this bit or that bit, which kind of makes the whole thing look better. Obviously it's horses for courses. I think, I call it architecture. Well, I would, wouldn't I? Because it does the job. I think it looks okay. Some people will hate it. Entirely up to you as to whether you use them or not. After about 3-4 weeks of using fishing line, and this isn't fishing line that I've got at the moment, I found it was getting loose, and I suspect that is because fishermen, when they cast their line, aren't much bothered whether their 100-foot fishing line comes back as 100 foot or 101 feet. Well, I didn't want creep in that, so I substituted something called Dyneema DM20, and it's the minimum width, 1.8 millimeters. In inches, that's called thin, and it's extremely strong, I can tell you that. It's fairly difficult to cut, you need a very sharp pair of scissors, but it exhibits no creep. So once you've got this set up using Dyneema, it will stay like that, unless these bend, which I don't think is likely, or that falls out. So Dyneema DM20 costs a few pounds, a few dollars, but worth it. While that last bloke was droning on about his flaming Tensegrity table, I've gone out and got a haircut. Makes me even better looking than I was before, yeah. But back to the table. It works for me. I enjoyed making it. It supports my beer, my tea. It doesn't fall off. I've subjected the table to a harsh regime of testing. 2 of my grandchildren, 4 years old and 6-year-old, visited last weekend and it survived. And they don't get harsher industrial tests than that. And it provides a talking point amongst my friends, half of whom seem to think they understand it and the other half clearly don't. So that's it. Go out and build one, enjoy it. And at the end of this video, please give me a thumbs up. I'm hoping to go viral. My first YouTube video, viral in my terms, is 10 or more thumbs up. I've got, let's think, 1 wife, 3 children, both friends. That gets me 6 out of 10, so I just need 4 more thumbs up, and in my terms I'll have gone viral. So thank you for listening. Enjoy yourself and build that table.